Hi, this is Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Intra-Arbor Solutions, and you're listening to BriefingsDirect. Our next digital business innovation discussion explores the growing importance of contingent workforces. As more businesses look to external workforces and services to satisfy their skills and information technology needs, the ability to manage those workers and services is lagging. Even as upwards of 40% of workforce spend is now going to external workforces, many organizations lack visibility into the nature of that spend. As a result, they can't manage the productivity nor the risk. Stay with us now as we hear from a contingent workforce expert at Capgemini on managing the processes that best procure and support talent and skills agility. To learn more about making the most of a diversified portfolio of workers, please join me now in welcoming our guest. We're here with Andreas Hedberg, Vice President and Group Procurement Category Director at Capgemini in Berlin. Welcome, Andreas.
Hello, Dana.
We're so glad you're with us. Andreas, what's driving the need for external workforce management and specifically the role of contingent workforce workers there at Capgemini?
We are a big company with roughly 250,000 employees worldwide. And we as Capgemini are a consulting digital transformation company. And we innovate and address all the entire breadth of the client opportunities in the evolving world of cloud, digital, and platforms. And that means through this, we have a huge variety of roles, skills, and capabilities that we need to deliver to make all these kind of projects. And for sure, there's either some kind of constraint in capacity or maybe also some kind of constraint in the niche capabilities that you need to put into such kind of contingent workforce program. And having said this, for sure, the contingent workforce is part of our strategic component of making sure that we deliver great projects towards our clients. So this is why we need this contingent workforce program globally to address this.
And is the use of information technology skills and workers a leader in this field? Is there something about information technology specifically that lends itself to a contingent workforce?
Yeah, first of all, from the skill perspective, for sure, we are an IT consulting company, and therefore this is our major skill that we purchase from the market. But again, the variety is huge, and therefore we need to make sure that we address all the different sources to make sure that we have the right capability and capacity ready for this one.
And how long has this been going on? How long have you been working to perfect and improve the use of contingent workforces?
Quite a long time already. We started in 2016, and to be honest, we started in an environment where we knew most likely the spend of contingent workforce, but we didn't have really a clue about the number of headcount, the tenure of engagements. We did not really know what kind of external capabilities we sourced from the market. That means what kind of roles, skills, and levels. We didn't even know anything about the fulfillment rate and how long it took to source the right capabilities and whether we maybe missed some opportunities to deliver the right projects to our clients. And we also had some kind of big and constantly changing supply base, many of these suppliers being one-time suppliers. And on the other side, for sure, we had the issues that we were not able to understand what did we really pay for the individual roles, skills, and levels per country, and whether this was a good price compared to the market or not. That helped not really to drive competitive bids towards our clients. And during this environment, we said we need to change something. This is why we started then this global program.
Now, of course, human resources for many years has had systems of record that they use and processes to manage an ongoing workforce. But when things are project-based and ad hoc, like you're describing, when they're being funded from a variety of different budgets and different elements of the organization, keeping track of that is, of course, very daunting. Why do you view this less as a human resources task and more of a procurement task? And is that helping to bring a unified view of all of these different spends?
I think you're raising a good point right now. There's always the question about who owns contingent workforce. Is it procurement? Is it HR? Is it maybe the business itself? Or is it maybe any other function in the company? From our perspective, it was that HR and recruitment for sure had a big focus on our own employees with our employer brand and making sure that we attract the right talents from the market with our employer brand and towards our portfolio that we wanted to deliver to the clients. Contingent workforce is a little bit minor. We are talking about 6 to 7% of the complete population of our delivery capacity that we have globally. And therefore, it was more, first of all, the topic about cost and the topic about risk that we wanted to address. And as I said, HR with the size was more focusing on the permanent side. And we took this topic, we created the right business case, we came back with the right problem statement and came back with a solution. And this is how it evolved. We started this program and now it's procurement owning this one. But again, it's a good question. It could also be a different function, but we owned it here in Capgemini and he has evolved it to where it is right now. And I think we are on a good stage right now.
You know, Andreas, it strikes me that you're a better organization in terms of fulfilling your mission and supporting your customers when you can find labor best where it exists rather than where you wish it were. How flexible can you be with a contingent workforce? Is this literally an addressable market that extends all over the world? And perhaps the COVID-19 pandemic has opened people's eyes to the potential for more remote and flexible workforces.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, the contingent workforce has increased in the market. If you look to the different researchers, and even we from Capgemini Institute have done proper researching right now about the fluid workforce, you see that the number of contingent workforce has increased over the last years, for sure starting with North America, but also in Europe it did. And even now in Asia Pacific and in India, it starts to grow. So we need to address this accordingly. And this is why we will talk later on about some kind of innovation, hopefully. But this is why we said we need to address it with a global program to make sure that we get the best contractors in the market and that we use them also recurringly. Looking right now to COVID and the pandemic, just to add on this one, yes, we have seen dramatic changes here because out of the sudden, clients were open for remote work. Our own organization was open for remote work. And we as Capgemini were able in a few weeks to have more than 95% of our own population working remotely. And that helped us really to change this one and to have a paradigm change in this environment and also having contractors working remotely. So this is for sure something that we need to address in the future, and we will talk about this one hopefully later as well.
Yeah, it certainly strikes me that even though COVID-19 might be a motivator or an eye-opener, as organizations go more digital, the ability to use workers regardless of their location becomes more prominent, and I expect that to grow as well. But tell me, Andreas, when we get to the use of contingent workforces, what are the benefits other than sort of the obvious ones that people might expect, which is simply the ability to find supply to meet the demand for labor and skills? Are there other benefits? What has it done for you there at Capgemini?
Yeah, from our perspective, we have four major categories that we have addressed. The first one is business impact improvement. As you rightly said, it's fulfillment, making sure that we get the right talents on board, that we can fulfill the needs of our clients, and therefore making sure that the clients are happy and for sure our projects will be delivered on time with the right quality, right? The second aspect for sure is cost optimization. Like always, it's a very challenging market and we need to be very competitive. And whenever you need contractors, be it maybe a niche or be it maybe people to be embedded in our projects, then we need to make sure that we do it correctly with the right pricing, because for sure it's a win-win situation. When we are competitive in using the right contingent workforce for the right price, then for sure it's also possible to deliver the best pricing towards our clients. So cost optimization was a second big aspect here. A third and really not neglectable issue is risk mitigation. More and more labor laws come up, be it maybe in France, the Marchandage, or be it maybe in Germany, called Arbeitnehmerüberlassung. There are so many labor laws coming up right now, and also tax-related topics like the IR35 in the UK. And you need to deal with this. And this is why we said whenever we have the visibility, when we control our contingent workforce, we can be sure that also risk can be mitigated. And then we have the fourth topic that we addressed, that was process efficiency, because we said bringing in contractors, bringing in the right supply or the services from our suppliers needs to be seamless, from getting the right capabilities in up to the invoicing, approval, and all what's necessary. And that must be very efficient, because in an organization like ours that is global in roughly 50 countries worldwide, we need to have proper seamless processes end to end. Otherwise, it's an administrative burden that you can't afford.
And how about the issue of speed and agility? Oftentimes when it's a full-time position, it can take months, if not longer, to go through the process of defining the role, hiring, vetting, onboarding. Is there something about contingent labor that increases the speed and the ability to be agile when you're satisfying your customers on a project basis?
Yes, absolutely. And I think this is also the beauty of contractors. You really have the chance to reach out to the market, to identify the right contractors on time. And this is also why contractors from time to time come in, because it's much easier and quicker to get them in up to the moment until we recruit maybe somebody permanently, right? For sure, we do this through a preferred supply base, and this is part of the SLAs that we negotiate with our preferred supply base. This is the speed, quality, and for sure the pricing aspect. But we have also invested last year into our freelancer gateway by Capgemini. That means we are addressing contractors directly. We have created the possibility for contractors to check the opportunities that we have on the contingent workforce side, to apply accordingly, to be part of our extended workforce. And this is exactly what we see as being very beneficial, because more and more contractors don't want to go through an external or to a third party. They want to reach out to us directly. And for us, that's a benefit. We can really create some kind of external workforce. We want to build a recurring workforce so that we have some kind of relationship towards the contractor market and make sure that the right people work for us regularly.
Now, we mentioned that procurement is the force through which you're operating here, and you've been in procurement for many years. Tell us a little bit about your procurement background and why you think the procurement legacy and approach to managing processes and costs lends itself to contingent workforce management.
I joined Capgemini in 2004, quite a long time already. Before this, I was a consultant in different companies. And to be honest, during the initial years, it was very, very unmature market, right? The contingent workforce was not really addressed during this time. And we really started from scratch in this environment. Now, in 2020, the time has changed completely. We have technologies, we have MSPs over there. We have really mature organizations that can help. And also the technology has evolved dramatically, right? And through, for example, our freelancer gateway, we use extended technology partners from SAP Fieldglass, and we use artificial intelligence and automation to really make this attraction process as easy as possible, because technology can help so much right now in this kind of environment. And this is why I'm saying it helps dramatically. And as HR is on the one side focusing more on the permanent side, we are focusing on the contracting side, but merging our capabilities by using also our Capgemini brand. This is exactly where it will go. And this leads us towards a total workforce management.
And how has the SAP portfolio, in particular Fieldglass, helped you get a more repeatable and understandable process? Is there something about the systems of record from a cloud-based SaaS provider that has multiple different business applications and services that lends itself to your needs?
During the time of 2016, when we started with our business case, we also said we need to have the right technology to support this accordingly, because we can't just create some processes, organization, and then try to do everything manually. We said this is not possible, right? We need to have the right solution. And during this time, for sure, we did proper RFPs and checked the market. SAP Fieldglass convinced us because, first of all, it's really a technology that had the right functionalities about what we wanted to have, right? It's really also an end-to-end solution with all the functionalities. Secondly, we wanted to have a solution that has a global footprint, because if you just come, for example, for North America, but don't understand how Europe works or vice versa, it's quite difficult, right? So we said we need to have somebody with a global footprint who has references in the key regions at least. And this is also why SAP Fieldglass has been chosen, because of this global footprint and the experience they had there, because this helped us also in deploying or starting our global program here. Third aspect SAP Fieldglass was that we wanted to have a strong provider with the right development capabilities who also wanted to evolve, right? We don't want to have just one solution with a functionality, but we knew that technology will evolve and our program will evolve as well. And therefore we said we need to have a partner who goes this story and this program with us over several years, because it's not just a 12 months exercise. This is really something that needs to evolve. That was the third aspect. And for sure, we needed to have somebody who helped us also to integrate a cloud-based solution into our system landscape, because it's also quite difficult sometimes when you have some cloud solutions and some on-premise solutions, but you need to connect them accordingly. And that worked, this was the reason why we selected SAP Fieldglass. And since when we are working very tightly together, and this works great.
Well, it certainly seems like Capgemini is in a great position to be a leader in this field and to innovate because of your emphasis on IT and your understanding of systems and the need for flexibility and your global footprint. You're really, I think, an early adopter, but also a bellwether of where things can go with contingent workforce management. So tell us about how you've innovated your freelance gateway you mentioned and trusted contractor program I've heard about. Tell us about what you've been able to put together with all these various parts and how the whole might be greater than the sum of those parts.
For sure, we started like many others with the contingent workforce functionality of SAP Fieldglass. This was the main purpose, first of all, to get this done. Then we moved to the next topic that was delivery-based services. But for sure, this is more specific to areas where you really have bigger spend areas that you need to control, because it's also a governance that you need to create. But then we came to the direct sourcing piece, as I said, with our freelancer gateway, to make sure that we use artificial intelligence and automation to attract contractors directly, and therefore also making sure that we have the extended workforce. And now comes the next level of this. As I said, the pandemic was also an accelerator for this one. This is really remote contracting, and this is quite difficult because remember, when you try to get contractors in, it's always that you need to do some kind of interviewing. And at a certain moment, people that seem to be good contractors, good consultants would want to work for us, come on site, we get to know to each other, and then some kind of relationship will start. The moment you do these kind of things remotely only, you will never have a personal interaction with people, just video conferences. And, it's about development, about consulting. At a certain moment, people need to have access to systems. So if you don't know these people, besides only the interview and the video conference that you had, there's some kind of uncertainty whether the capability and whether the security levels are really met. And this is why we said we need to do something differently rather than just identifying the contractors and then letting them work remotely. It's really about bringing a trusted level in and making sure that we have proper qualification, that we have proper experience with people, so that people come to a certain trusted level before they can work remotely for us. And this is exactly something that we are figuring out right now. We are not completely done yet, but this is something that's on the agenda to set it up right now as part of the new norm.
And so, Andreas, when you have that digital remote relationship rather than a more tactile human relationship, you have to go on metrics and KPIs, and you need data that's verifiable and repeatable. But in doing so, you develop probably a greater understanding, not only of your workers and your contingent workers, but the work itself. Is there something about going to a data-driven, more digital type of engagement that will pay dividends when it comes to the greater understanding through a data-driven and metrics-driven definition of your processes?
Yes, I think it's a combination of both, right? On the one side, you need to have the technology and the right data. But, when we start even thinking about I'm now very, very technical, right? But a taxonomy, trying to understand and identify a certain role, skills, and level, right? It's always very difficult. We created some kind of rate card structure to make this happen, to talk to each other, to understand what kind of role, skills, and level do we purchase, maybe in North America, or maybe in China, or maybe in India, right? But we know that this is a bandwidth of skills that is categorized over there. So we need to have a certain technology to help us here in identifying the capabilities of individuals, and on the other side, matching this with the job posting, with the needs that we have on the other side. Because it might be that on one side it says we need an SAP architect, on the other side it said, okay, I am an SAP architect, but still it doesn't match because there's so much information needed still until we can say this thing matches. So technology helps us here to make these kind of match, and for sure all this data will drive to more intelligence, artificial intelligence, to get proper and quicker matching so that the quality of this kind of matching process will increase. And this is also why, for example, we are focusing on having recurringly used contractors, because it's also some kind of loyalty that will lead to a win-win situation between the external market and our clients. And this is exactly where we want to go to.
And I certainly understand that building those taxonomies and creating the way in which you would measure the quality of the relationship for both parties is an ongoing process. But so far, just using the contingent workforce management and SAP Fieldglass to this point, tell us a little bit about what you've gotten. Are there metrics of success? Are there key indicators that you can point to that would demonstrate a return on investment or a rationale for why this is making sense even up to this point?
Yeah, first of all, I think what we said, we need to have the spend coverage of 85% in a reasonable time. It took us some time to get there, but we are right now at the 85%. We recently went live in India with a fully integrated VMS 2.0 solution. This is how we call it internally. And now we are at this level. For sure, there are different countries still where we have not full coverage yet, but we do it with some kind of light version so that we at least have the chance to identify individual external workforce, right? The second measure that we have, and this is very important for us, is the fulfillment rate. I mentioned it already. This is business impacting, and we are now at 80% fulfillment rate on eligible demand. Eligible means there's always for sure some kind of demand in the contractor environment that cannot be filled because finally it's not needed anymore, or it's maybe that some things change, and that means our own people can take care of this one. So this is why we always say eligible demand is something that really needs to be fulfilled. And here we are at 80%. And I think this is quite good already. And we are further ahead of where we were some time ago. Another topic is also the quality of job postings and aging, because if you have a job posting for contingent workforce, for example, and that it's in your system for 12 months, it just dilutes the KPIs and nobody's working on this anymore. We are right now at a level of below 30 days. That means whenever something is not filled, right, within 30 days, it needs to be rechecked whether this is really needed. And that means we always have proper demand that we really can work on. And this is really helping us to perform better towards our business. Quite important is also time to fill. We have decreased this significantly. Currently, we are on below 10 days from the job posting until the creation of the work order. So it means whenever there's really a demand for contracting side, we are able to fill this within 10 days. And this is, you mentioned it earlier, much quicker than recruiting people from the external market whenever this is really needed. For sure, this will change right now with the new normal, because now that we have the possibility of a global workforce, there will be changes in what do we really need externally and what needs to be delivered from the internal side. And for sure, this is something that will evolve over the next weeks, I would say.
And of course, a very important measure of success these days is the perception of the customer experience. Have you gotten any feedback, and this is probably more qualitative and anecdotal, from your customers on how you procure your skills to satisfy their needs? Has there been any feedback as to how well this works from your customer's vantage point?
Yes, exactly. So for sure, it's everything is client driven for us. No? This is most important. And there are some environments where you are not allowed to go with an external workforce, and so be it, right? Others think more about the delivery based environment, and there we need to make sure that the right teams are available to deliver what we have promised. And for sure, in RFPs, there's always the question about if contingent workforce need to be engaged. How do you do this? How can you ensure that you select the right people, that you have the right suppliers in place, and that you are able to deliver what you are promising to us? And then we come with our approach, showcase this one, and it's always that the client base is very impressed by what we do already. We even go out to our client side, explain what we do and how we do, and we even have from time to time the situation that they are thinking about, okay, how can we do this internally? Can you help us to deploy similar things in our organization? I think this is the best thing ever if clients ask us to do similar things for themselves.
Of course, those clients would let you know pretty quickly if things weren't working out. And so you have the ability to be reactive and agile as you adjust. So there's a feedback loop, of course, that can be leveraged. Before we end, Andreas, let's look to the future a little bit. We mentioned the idea of establishing trust and understanding the relationship and the qualitative and quantitative value of work. But it seems to me that what we're talking about as contingent workforce expands is really a redefinition of a corporation or a business. The barriers of that business become fuzzy, even permeable. Do you see the nature of business changing as we look to less of a walled garden and more of a expanding universe of skills?
Yes, I would say so. No? As I said, call it global resourcing or global capabilities is exactly where it will lead to. Not everywhere. It's not that everything can be done remotely. For sure, this is not possible, right? But it will increase for sure. And this will give us opportunities, not only as Capgemini to work also more remotely, but also from our contractor side. And this trusted contractor service is exactly the right thing, I think, to address right now, because only when we have the right people in place, when we have the right contractors in place, then we can do these kind of things. There will always be some deviation. As you say, more and more tax regulation will come, more and more labor laws will come in the different countries. And for sure, this needs to be addressed. And there is a difference between external services and internal services. And for sure, this needs to be addressed. I think it will not be as fuzzy maybe as it looks like initially, so that you can't differentiate anymore between an employee and a temporary contractor. It will always be a differentiation there from my perspective because of all these kind of tax, legal and statutory requirements. But you can do things in a more homogeneous and more aligned way. And this is exactly where it will lead to.
All right, last question. What advice would you share with others who are interested in increasing the amount of contingent workforce utilization and management? What would you tell them as they get started, maybe lessons that you learned along the way?
I think there are many learnings. I can admit I could talk hours about this one. But the first thing that I have is whenever you want to start some kind of contingent workforce program, think about what are the pain points in your own company. Is it a risk about TLS requirements, so tax, labor, legal and statutory requirements? Is it maybe a cost issue? Is it maybe a fulfillment issue? So what are really the pain points that you have in your organization? And start from there, creating then solutions and then finally a business case, because without a business case that is not approved by the senior business, you will never succeed. This is my first recommendation. The second one is getting clarity from the executive level about who owns such kind of program. This links very much to the question that you had earlier. Is it procurement? Is it HR? Is it somebody from the business? But there need to be an owner, because otherwise you start a program and then you immediately start fighting about who owns this. Right. So the third aspect is, if you want to go in such kind of global program, what about the governments? You need to have the right stakeholders in place. First of all, to get their buy-in. And secondly, this is what I always say, it's crowd intelligence. You are never the one who has the knowledge about everything. So if you get the right people on board from the different countries, from the different functions, then you will have all the intelligence that you need to create such kind of program. And then for sure, you need to make sure that you have proper steer codes in place, because there will always be discussions and escalations. So make sure that you don't get only the approval from the executive committee, but also that you have a regular decision points where these kind of things will be discussed and decisions will be taken. And last but not least, prioritize. You will never be in the position to have a global program and make sure that in 12 months you have covered the globe. This will not happen. So prioritize, make sure where you have the biggest pain points, you start there, because initial success creates demand for deployment and will lead to its acceleration. Get success as quickly as possible in areas where really success is needed. Talk about this one, and that will help you really to accelerate.
Well, very good. I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there. You've been listening and watching a sponsored BriefingsDirect discussion on the growing importance of contingent workforces. And we've learned why managing those workers and services better enables businesses to further leverage external workforces and services to satisfy flexibly their growing skills and information technology needs. So a big thank you to our guest. We've been here with Andreas Hetfer, Vice President and Group Procurement Category Director at Capgemini. Thank you so much, Andreas.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
And a big thank you as well to our audience for joining us for this BriefingsDirect Digital Business Innovation discussion. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Interarbor Solutions, your host throughout this series of SAP-sponsored BriefingsDirect interviews. Thanks again for listening. Please do come back next time and feel free to share this in your business community.